finish this sentence. Most apps plateau because they never figured out how to
talk to users.
Welcome to Apptivate, the mobile marketing podcast brought to you by the app retargeting experts at Remerge. Listen to what's working in mobile marketing today from the people who are doing it now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Apptivate. Today's guest has scaled products to over 30 million users, and she'll tell you acquisition is the easy part. She thinks in systems, fixes funnels from the inside out, and right now she's leading growth and marketing at MyGroove and is a growth advisor as well. MyGroove is a gaming-style music learning app. I'm really excited to talk to her. Welcome to Apptivate, Ekaterina Gamsriegler.
Hi there. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to talk and dive into it. She's dialing in from Austria. Can you explain what you do at MyGroove and with your consulting as well?
Yeah, sure. MyGroove is a music learning app where we teach music instruments, and this is actually a very good moment to record this episode, because when people used to ask me where I work and I would say MyGroove, it would not say much to people because up until a few days ago, the app was only available in the DACH regions. However, a few days ago, we went live worldwide. The app and all the content is now available in English. And now it's much easier to explain what I'm working on. So I'm leading growth and marketing at MyGroove. And yeah, this is a music learning app where we try to make music education accessible to everyone, regardless of their income or how many music schools exist in their region, so that everybody could learn to play music instruments and have fun with it.
That's great. I have a problem of buying instruments, playing with them for about a week, and then never returning. So maybe I download MyGroove and get some music lessons. And so when you're leading growth with these companies, most recently MyGroove, in the pre-interview, you're talking about this image of growth as a house of cards. It looks stable until one piece is wrong and knocks the whole thing over. When did you think about that mental model, and how did it change the way you approach growth advising?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that, like, a very common comparison also in my head was always a puzzle. Like when you're figuring out growth, you have to make sure that all the pieces tie together. And I think this is a very good comparison too. But I started recently thinking about that in my experience, or at least the cases that I've been recently coming across, it really started feeling more like a house of cards, because just one little change in something can completely ruin the whole system. It might mean that it was not a sustainable system to begin with, but I started to feel that it's not just about figuring out different pieces of the puzzle, just like it's not about figuring out the problems on the bottlenecks in the parts of the funnel, but it's more about the whole system being stable and being cohesive to some extent. Because there were just lots of cases in the past years in my advisory roles and also in my full-time roles, where I could very clearly see how one little element or change breaks everything. Puzzle does not break that easily. That's why maybe I'm shifting my mental model for that. Yeah.
And when you take over and you start looking at the funnel, whether it's at MyGroove or one of your consulting companies, what's the first thing that you look at to maybe start seeing what's actually going on there?
Yeah, typically it's indeed the funnel and just tons of data. And I have to say this is relatively easy to find and to spot the bottlenecks at the different steps or in different growth loops, where you can clearly see, okay, like this is where it breaks, this is where you hit the ceiling, this is where the math stops amazing. However, again, I started looking at it slightly different in a sense that such bottlenecks and such problems are quite easy to fix. It can be an improvement in the UX. It can be a change on the paywall, a new experiment. It can be a creative win. But at the same time, growth, in my experience these days, is really a little bit less tangible, sadly. And there are also these opportunities which do not look like problems to begin with, but still end up being opportunities which, when you tackle them, bring improvement across like the full funnel and really bring the product to the next level. For example, one kind of obvious example is that your creatives determine your customer acquisition cost. They determine your advertising efficiency, but not only to the level that you get a creative win, you have good click-through rates and even good CPIs. More like in a deeper sense, that with certain creatives you will be attracting certain intents of the users. And what I see happening sometimes is the mismatch between your product and the experience in your product, and at the same time the people that you're trying to attract with your creatives. Lots of apps compare themselves to Duolingo. Lots of us know that these days consumers might be overwhelmed, they might be stressed. Nobody wants extra load or be forced to put effort into something. So we try to make it easy, like try this, try that, super beginner friendly, etc. And I noticed that such narrative might not work long term, like at the very bottom of the funnel, because, well, we oversell the simplicity. And in reality, if we talk about apps like educational apps or health and fitness apps, there is still some effort that you can't avoid putting if you want to get a healthier lifestyle, if you want to build healthier eating habits, or if you want to learn something, like also a music instrument, right? So the best resonating creatives can be advertising simplicity, but the mass will also probably break when it comes to everything happening after the install or after the trial, because we might be attracting the audience that is more likely to cancel it once they realize that actually I need to put a lot of mental or physical effort into it. And this was one of the things where the creative mix, of course, also defines your customer acquisition cost. It also will define your subscriber churn rates. And I noticed that creative concepts which are about building up credibility, not necessarily overselling simplicity, for educational products work really well. These are usually concepts like street interviews or UGC concepts where you have a speaker on stage or a fake podcast, or before-after comparisons. So these are the type of concepts that truly work throughout the full funnel for me recently.
When you mentioned fake podcasts just now, my mind just went to, oh my gosh, I've seen so many of those ads, and maybe in the back of my mind, I thought that they were fake podcasts, but I kind of just thought that maybe they were mentioned. But yeah, wow. Thanks for letting us know about that. You said that you can only see the damage of a bad acquisition decision anywhere between 60 to 90 days later. Could you tell us what's an example of a bad acquisition decision? And also, how can you maybe help speed up that time to learnings, or just build in that lag time to how you evaluate a certain channel?
Yeah, I would say the most also common example maybe, and recent one, would be seasonality, or specifically for, as I specialize in education and health and fitness apps mostly, I can say that, of course, Q5 and New Year resolutions is a huge thing. And this is also where you start seeing the true results of it a few months later, because at the beginning, the channel mix, the scale might be working out perfectly, because the seasonality is there, the user intent is there. Everybody wants to have some New Year resolutions, which is just stupid not to tackle and not to scale during this time frame. So naturally, everything's working pretty good. At the same time, we also know that after about a few weeks into the new year, most people give up on their resolutions. And this means that churn will definitely follow this, like downstream churn. And only after, like I would say, after February, you can truly see, like, okay, how many of these users who started the monthly subscription, or if you maybe have a long trial as well, how many of them actually canceled, how many retained and even opened the app after. In my experience, this is a very sobering kind of a picture. And regarding how you can maybe foresee that, I would say that looking not only at the customer acquisition cost and looking not only at the return on ad spend that you have within, let's say, 14 days or 30-day period, but also looking at the cancellation rates to see how this impacts your projected lifetime value is critical.
And you mentioned working with a couple different companies in where Q5 is their very busy season. We're in Q2 now, but do you have any advice for growth marketers who are starting to plan for Q5?
The advice would be to really, first of all, if you feel like this, what I just mentioned, can be your case or like your scenario, what you see is to definitely learn from these mistakes, is to see what is the level of scale that you can realistically reach without your metrics going down the drain. And this should be longer term metrics. So if you have data from the past years, like from this particular season, you could probably see, okay, what were the cancellation rates for subscribers back then? How many of them stayed with you for how many months or how many years? Or maybe they all canceled the subscriptions immediately and went on with their life. So I would definitely look at the past data. I would try to project what it might mean for the future, like for the upcoming season. And another advice would be to also do a lot of research and try to understand why they're canceling. Is it truly because they expected it to be much easier than it was? Is it because your content or your product or the way it's structured and works did not resonate with them? It was not their type, not their way to exercise or to learn something? Is it because, like, it's unlikely that it was too expensive, I believe. But there was a moment clearly when their motivation ended and they probably did not proceed. Another thing to find out would be their willingness to pay. So you can also try to see where your price is, and if this is something that you can play around with. I have two quite extreme examples, but I think during this season, a lot of apps follow the strategy of really capturing as much demand as possible and turning them into subscribers. And this often means relatively aggressive discount strategies. At the same time, I've heard of an app which was also in the health and fitness category, which was increasing prices during that time frame because they knew that during winter they're getting the users that are the most hardcore and they're like were becoming their power users. So they were increasing the prices to get even more revenue out of this season. So I would say that there is maybe even no solid playbook behind it. And it's about understanding the user's intent, how high it is, understanding their willingness to pay, and also especially their reasons to cancel if they are canceling soon after.
Yeah, I think a lot of marketers and product people are afraid to raise prices during those times. But I'm thinking about it like now in the United States, is probably the best time to buy snowboard and ski equipment, and it always gets raised when there's in the winter. So it's why shouldn't apps do that as well?
There were similar examples, like in specific regions where you know that, okay, during a certain season, if users get to download your app, it means their intent is really high. And if they're using it, let's say in winter, then they're definitely going to be using it throughout the year. So this is how you can see, like, what segments are going to be more profitable for you.
And you've worked with MyGroove going international with a bunch of different apps that have international audiences. I'm thinking of one in specific. Is it pronounced Mimo?
Mm-hmm.
You're head of marketing over at Mimo. And how do you think about localization as a growth lever? And can you define what localization is?
Yeah, localization was also one of this throughout funnel, not even funnel, throughout the whole experience, expanding thing, which again was definitely an opportunity, and it did not feel like a very acute problem at all. So this was not something we had to tackle, yet this was one of the things that we implemented, which really helped to change the trajectory, like of the company's growth. It was really a breakthrough back then. So localization, as the app was back then available only in English, this was becoming a barrier for users from different markets. And we could see it from user research, we could see it from negative user reviews, which were mentioned, and the app is not in Italian, the app is not in Spanish, the app is not in French, etc. So for many years, I would say we were thinking about it in a way that, okay, if you want to learn to code, you have to be speaking English and you need to learn programming in English. At the same time, over time, this sentiment changed a bit, and we realized that there are already so many barriers for users towards learning to code that we maybe should not be adding another one on top of this, which is language. So if we want to make it truly accessible, maybe we should rethink this approach and try it out. So we tested translating the app, which was not that easy. Like I would say it was 3 or 4 years ago back then. But yet we did it in a few markets and we saw really great results after this was done, which were covering the full funnel again. So we saw huge improvement in organic acquisition because people started spreading the word of mouth at a much higher rate. We saw spikes in referral downloads. We saw much better activation, engagement, retention, and also conversion. So there was so much that it brought that then we added languages on top. And this really helped us increase the monthly active user numbers without spending any extra money on acquisition, which was really great.
That's incredible. There was also at MyGroove, when you first came in, your first 90 days, you noticed that the acquisition mix was essentially all brand channels, PR, mass media, owned social, things like that. How did you make the case to shift the strategy into more performance marketing? And what did the first 90 days of that pivot look like?
Yeah, I was actually quite excited about joining the company because I knew that they're doing a lot of things that I'm typically not doing. And I really wanted to learn how they do that and where they got with this mix so far. And the team had a really great expertise in organizing big offline events, in founder-led growth. It was also, it is the first, and so far for me, the only company where I truly see it in action. With other companies, it was not really the case. But here, it was very interesting to observe like what's happening when it comes, like suddenly your app is on the news organically, or newspapers write about it, and things like that. So I was very excited about it, and I've learned a lot, and I'm learning a lot still. However, over time, it became quite clear that these channels do a certain job, maybe the job that they're supposed to do, because they are non-direct impact channels. They are channels that really did a great job increasing the awareness of the app in the German-speaking markets. At the same time, when it comes to actual downloads and conversions and paying subscribers, the numbers were not extremely optimistic. So it's it's not like the other channels were not working. It's more like I would not expect them to do too much heavy lifting. I would not expect them to bring direct results, which were also needed. And at the same time, to this very day, we're still using them, but with more realistic expectations. So I would treat them more like as a cherry on top. There are definitely a lot of things that we're still trying to do to make them work. Like, for example, if we know that there is a placement or piece in the media, then we try to place the QR codes strategically. We try to, when we are having an offline event or event for our community, we also place we're branding the space, so people can take pictures, they can tag us, they can also have the QR codes, people can download the apps from there. So we're trying to turn these branding activities into some kind of a direct return activities, but of course I'm pretty realistic about the outcomes there. Maybe what was interesting was also that for MyGroove specifically, the casual contact growth loop actually works pretty well. That's why we also invest effort into merge and distributing merge. For any other app I worked with in the past, I think it was not making much sense. But as music learning and playing music is such a community type of a thing, I think distributing merch among the community also makes a lot of sense for us.
And you mentioned growing paying subscribers 10 times in a year. And then you mentioned a lot of different ways to do that. Do you think there was one like single biggest unlock there, or maybe the merch? Or do you think that there was one that was punching above its weight?
Yeah, sadly not merch, but I think the unlock was decreasing the price for our subscription, which also sounds counterintuitive, maybe weird, but before I joined, I think the subscription price was pretty high, even for the DACH region, even for iOS. And this was one of the reasons where I believe the conversions were not happening. Mm-hmm. So we decreased it. And this made, of course, the lifetime value go down, which is expected. But at the same time, it hugely improved our conversion to purchase rates. So which, again, only this allowed us to start running paid acquisition. Otherwise, we did not have the conversions happening.
And you've done this multiple times in your career where you come in for the first 90 days, and I'm sure you look at the systems and you diagnose and then you fix in a pretty quick timeline. Do you have any advice to marketers who might be in the position of just starting a new first 90 days at a new company? Do you have any just overall tricks or tips or advice for them to make the biggest impact in that first 90 days?
This would be building a user journey, like mapping every single step from ad impression, if you're running paid advertising, or maybe from a search in the store, depending on what channels you have, to renewal maybe, or like at least to purchase. To see, going through it yourself multiple times to see where in this journey the bottlenecks can actually be, taking note of this, and then checking how much the data actually confirms or does not confirm that. So one part would be a pretty detailed user journey, also to ensure, like what we talked about at the beginning, to ensure that, like, even if the ad is perfect, and even if the onboarding is perfect and quick and easy, and even if there is a nice paywall following all the best practices, still making sure that the whole thing actually aligns and is not just about a list of best practices that are applied to different screens in the app. So like this is one part. And the second part is building, looking at the numbers, looking at the past data that exists, and creating from scratch or analyzing this kind of monthly, bi-weekly growth model, where you also have the conversion rates for the most critical steps and for all the channels that are currently running, to see there might be bottlenecks that will be very easy to spot with some conditional formatting applied. You can just see that. Sometimes you can look back and see that something changed significantly, ask questions about what happened and why. So I would say data, as well as you understanding perfectly the flow, like the user journey, would be my very first go-to strategies. What I do is can be considered a waste of time by many, but but I also tend to do the monthly reporting myself in a way that I even for many inputs enter the numbers manually myself, which helps me get them stuck in my head and very clearly understand what's actually happening or changing. Because just by looking at it, I feel like not always you can get the real. Actually, let's scrap this off. I feel like it's really stupid. It should be my secret.
No,
But no, I
I like
do
it.
that. I know it's prone to mistakes, but it really helps it get stuck in my head. No, looking into data and matching it to the user journey steps make a lot of sense. There are some things like activation, for example, which sound easy because a lot of companies define it as finishing onboarding or sign up, which might be wrong, will be wrong in most cases, because it doesn't really show that the user got the value out of the app. And what I also keep finding out is that in a way more apps than I initially would think, activation problems can get lost because a lot of things are happening offline. And these offline experiences can vary because one of the apps, for example, where I worked with, was very simple, and the activation rates were perfect because users had to scan the barcode of a product and see if the product they're trying to buy is healthy or not, or the products that they have at home. At the same time, when you think about it, when you run paid advertising at scale, you cannot expect everyone to have a product item, a grocery in hand to be able to scan something. So understanding the context, understanding that, okay, this might not be a good time, user might not be in the right place, they might also not be at home close to their music instrument. And there are tons of examples where this journey breaks and the activation breaks, and so much more stuff is happening offline than we believe it might, that it's really critical to, I think, to tie the activation metric to value, to make sure that you define it well, that it's not just about completing the onboarding screens, no matter how hard or how many you have, and actually then giving users the possibility maybe to even skip a critical action, but get reminded of it later and give it a shot after, but making sure that they get the value out of it.
I love when apps let you say, let's skip this for now and come back later and just keep me moving to the value of the app. Because maybe with the barcode example, you could see maybe some apps would say, okay, you can't use this app if you don't have a barcode, but maybe some people would say, skip this and look at some popular or typical food that and you can see all the nutrition and stuff like that. So I think that's a good example.
Yeah, offering a demo, I think, is a perfect way to still showcase the value, but to not pretty much end the journey right there. I think another good example that I heard of was in a conversation with Jacob Rushfin, because he had an example of an app which is a meditation app, or I think it also would help you to fall asleep. And it was just a very simple pop-up at the end of the onboarding asking if you're going to bed now, if you're actually going to sleep or not, and which would direct you to the more relevant experience, right? And I felt these things are so simple, but they're also so genius, because just asking one simple question like, where are you at right now, actually can completely change this activation rate. So like this can completely change the first experience and make it super relevant.
Yeah, and speaking of relevance in MyGroove, I'm sure you're marketing to people who have never picked up an instrument before, and also people who are pretty serious musicians. How do you tailor the experience, and how hard is it to be able to grow both types? I mean, I know it's going to be a spectrum, but let's call them like amateurs versus experienced musicians. How hard is that to do from a marketing perspective?
Pretty hard,
Yeah.
but but I think that it might not be because of the different level of expertise. I mean, to some extent, but my biggest concern or like issue is not it's not the level of expertise, but it actually is about branding, which might not be the most obvious thing when we talk about growth, but the product is very high quality. The product is just has this amazing quality of the content that we have, like the videos, the education. There are so many parts to it which make it a very advanced kind of app. And the question is, how do you showcase this credibility? How do you showcase this excellence without overwhelming users, without making this look exclusive and actually being appealing for beginners? Because beginners, it's true that it's a spectrum, but beginners is our biggest audience, is the largest segment that we have. So how do you come to them without overwhelming with this excellence and quality that you have, and at the same time like stay true to the values and to the brand that you want to build? So I would say this is quite difficult, because when we talk simple, easy, beginner friendly, I usually would envision maybe a different kind of a mix, a different type of creatives, a different set of influencers promoting the app. But this is indeed challenging, because we do go after creators who actually play the instrument, who are either hobby musicians or professional musicians, and usually those who truly love our product and are using it. So this hugely limits the pool, because you cannot just go and create an AIGC token hat which says, hey, I tried this app and it's so awesome and you should do this too. You can't go to maybe a creator with a huge follower base but who has no idea how to play drums. So this kind of limits what we want to do. But in this sense, I would say I'm still trying to prioritize quality over quantity, and to make sure that we try to make sure that our credibility aspect is not really suffering, even if it does not allow us to do different growth tactics that might be working well for apps these days.
And Ekaterina, I feel like we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or questions you want me to ask you before we go into our fun little rapid fire segment at the end?
Let's go rapid fire.
Let's go rapid fire. So I got maybe 5 to 10 rapid fire questions. Don't think about them too hard. We're just gonna go and have some fun. Finish this sentence. Most apps plateau because they never figured out how to
talk to users.
What's a vertical you've never worked in but would love to crack?
I think I'm working. I'm just think I'm working in the verticals that I really like, which is education and health and fitness. I love products with good mission behind them. Yeah. Okay, I would say NGOs, like yeah.
And this is somewhat related question, but if you weren't in marketing, what would you be doing? Something completely different.
I think I would love to be helping animals or the environment at the scale where one could actually see the impact.
It's amazing.
Where it could make a difference.
what is one country you haven't visited that is on your list to go to?
South Africa.
See some good animals there.
Yeah. I love wildlife is great.
That's amazing. Yeah, I saw one of my favorite movies growing up was The Endless Summer, and they go to South Africa and they go see all the animals and they surf, and it's amazing. Okay, last one here. Let's see. Let's make it a good one. So you said one city you haven't, or one place you haven't visited. What's a place that you've traveled to that has really impressed you?
I truly love Norway, and I have to say I love it so much more than Iceland. I've been to both, but Norway is my dream destination.
All right, Icelandic listeners are not happy right now. And so you live in Vienna. If you could give one or a couple maybe off the beaten path travel recommendations, if somebody has a couple days in Vienna, what would you say?
Outside of Vienna, I would say actually get outside of Vienna, like to see maybe a few parks which are really great, also with wildlife, and there are also a lot of very nice castles outside of Vienna. Castles and ruins, like old castles. I think this is pretty cool because they're usually on the hills and you usually have a very, very nice view from there.
It's amazing. I hope to get over there soon. Ekaterina, well, thank you so much for joining the Apptivate podcast. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
I'm mostly on LinkedIn.
Okay, LinkedIn. Amazing. Well, thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your night in Austria. And thanks to you for all the listeners for listening.
Thanks so much. You enjoy the rest of your full day ahead.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
That's a wrap on Apptivate, powered by Remerge, global leaders in helping apps drive growth and retention.